welcome to the FloTrack podcast presented by Wonderful Pistachios. I'm Livek Pone, joined with Ashley Tishins and Corey Mull. Again, we're not in our normal studio and we're not outside Hayward Field. We are in our favorite restaurant in Eugene, the Paddock, as we call the Pad for short. So huge shout out to Lamont Cherrick, who's the owner of the restaurant for 19 years, and he's pretty much given us permission to be in one of the spots inside this amazing restaurant. There's so much history behind it. Steve Prefontaine used to work here. Dan Fouts also used to work here. Just so many fans. So we're so happy to be here, and we're so happy that you are tuning in to watch us as well. But of course, we are here for the U.S. Olympic trials. We've been waiting all year for this moment. And of course, over the next 10, 11, 12 days, how many days we're here, it's going to be full of excitement. But what is our first view that we saw? Because we all been around Hayward Field already. We've been running, observing. What can we tell the fans that are coming into Eugene? What should they look out for?
I mean, just expect the city to be full of runners.
Yes, yes.
In the morning, in the afternoon, heading into the evening sessions, the city is kind of vibrant with, organizations and integrations happening throughout, just the hours of the meet. And so it's going to be a running city over the next 10, 12 days.
Yeah, runners are just everywhere.
Oh, they're everywhere. I mean, I saw them this morning when I was out running, and I mean, I feel like you feel the gravity of like what this event is, right? Like, I mean, Hayward Field is like locked down. We called it threat level midnight. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like NCAAs or Prefontaine or anything like I've seen. Like, it is, this is serious business, and I mean, it makes sense. We're trying to select our, Olympic team, so I think it's gonna be really exciting.
Yes, and the energy I can already tell is big. It's, even though the meet hasn't technically started since we're filming this, you can feel the energy. Like Ashley mentioned, there's security everywhere. Runners are everywhere, which means we are in for a good show. So let's first talk about some big news that dropped this morning. Unfortunately, we heard that Matt Centrowitz, the 2016 Olympic 1500 meter gold medalist, is out of the 1500 meter first round. This potentially could have been his last shot. He is 34. The door is closing on his career. How much of an impact does this make just looking at the rounds? I know we have John Davern joining us, and he was like, found out through our Instagram, we were like, we can't tell John because he was so excited to see Matt compete. But my heart sunk this morning when we heard the news.
Yeah, I mean, it's so unfortunate to hear, right? Because, when we were out at the 10, that was when he first announced that 2024 is going to be his last competition year before he retires. And, today it was announced he went on social media and said that he got sick after LA Grand Prix, and then he had a hamstring injury following that sickness there. And I mean, shoot, he's been a staple since, we all remember that. I remember even that 2016 Olympic gold medal run when he won the 1500 meters there in Rio, but he had struggled with injury a lot after that. And he had been getting some momentum too. He had a good performance at the LA Grand Prix too. And, again, sad that this is how, tough break for him. And I know a lot of people are really excited to see him compete. In his social media announcement, he said, "It's not goodbye, it's see you later." Kind of like a, bittersweet in a way. Yeah.
He was an outside shot to make the team in the 1500 meter, right. But he was in the mix, and I think people were looking forward to seeing him compete here, including John. I think he is a certified legend in middle distance ranks. I mean, U.S. didn't win gold medals at these distances for a long time, and he single-handedly kind of brought him back up. Now, racing has changed a lot, too, in the last 10 years.
Yes.
It's less tactical nowadays. It's more about kind of setting a pace and really injecting some fast times into the picture there. Matt won on a very tactical race back in 2016. But I think what he did is he gave, those young guys at the time that he was competing a reason to dream. Right. And now we have guys like Cole Hawker, Nathan Green, Colin Salmon, Cooper Tier. All of them now are sort of heading into their primes. And I think part of it was seeing the inspiration of Matthew Centrowitz all those years ago.
Yeah, I like what you mentioned, Corey, just kind of being, I almost want to say he was the face of the U.S. distance running community. He was was a 5-time 1500 meter national champ. Like, he has not lost a national championship between 2011 and 2018. So this was a guy that was constantly on the track, putting his best foot forward. Again, winning the 2016 Olympic gold, and was a 2-time world championship medalist. So this is a guy that we've really have gotten to see over the last decade or so really just do incredible things. So this is something we never want to see happen.
Question, a lot of stars of the sport have gotten into coaching ranks.
Yes.
His father is a legendary coach. Do we see him one day getting into?
For
I
sure.
would love that.
I think that could happen. I think right now too, he also announced he's about to be a dad soon. So like, I feel like, become a dad, become a coach. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, and it's in the family. So I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah, it's just when one door closes, another one opens. And so we're just looking forward to seeing what the rest of Matt Centrowitz's life looks like moving forward. But moving up next, we're going to have the women's 100-meter rounds begin today. This is going to feature athletes like Sha'Carri Richardson, who is looking to make her first Olympic team. She's also going to face athletes who we're crossing our fingers that JC Sears is going to toe the line and is ready to go. You're also going to have athletes like Aaliyah Hobbs, Mackenzie Long, Tamari Davis, Melissa Jefferson. Mackenzie Long also announced this morning that she just put the ink with a deal with Adidas. So lots of great things moving in. Of course, we're like within 24 hours of the first round, which will begin at 5:53 Pacific time here. So what can we expect from this very first round? Ashley?
Oh, you're putting me on the
Yeah,
spot.
I'm putting
right
you
there.
on the spot.
Well, I think the big news, obviously, to start the day, Mackenzie Long turning pro. You know, she just won the 100 and the 200 for Ole Miss at NCAAs. And, I mean, shoot, she's the world leader in the 200. She's gone a 1091 in that 100. She did that at NCAAs. Like, this girl has been on another level. And, I mean, she hit her peak in NCAAs. So, to me, it's like, gosh, she's got that. She's now a pro. Like, where could we see her go? You know, and this is obviously, I mean, high pressure situation, Olympic trials, her first ones. And I'm just very excited to see her, you know, toe the track there. But I mean, if you look at the rest of this field, it's very competitive. I think it's interesting. She'll be in the heat in the first round with Morlake Kineson, Abby Steiner, Aaliyah Hobbs, top 6 each heat, plus the next 3 fastest times will move on to the semis. So I think that's really exciting. Then obviously you mentioned too, Sha'Carri Richardson. I mean, I was blown away by how she performed at Prefontaine Classics. Yeah. She exceeded my expectations there. She went 10:83 there. So I'm curious to see where, you know, she's what she's been doing in training since then and how she's going to perform here at the Olympic trials, trying to make her first Olympic team.
Yeah, Corey, how do you feel about Mackenzie Long going through these first rounds?
I mean, it's going to be a big time for her.
Yeah.
I think she's looked to be a favorite in some senses in that 200. And in the 100, she has a realistic shot, too. It's really just about how you prepare yourself for getting on the line today and getting through that first stage, maybe wiping away the nerves a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think personally, JC Sears is one of the bigger storylines outside of Sha'Carri Richardson. 10:77 in April, wasn't so long ago that she ran that time. She's still #1 in the world at the 100. She's in lane 9 in heat 2, which, you know, everyone runs the same distance. Everyone is running the straight line, but how will she perform coming back from injury, I think, is what a lot of people will be watching, because she's run basically as fast as Sha'Carri back in college, right?
Yeah.
Many people see her as potentially one of the next faces of U.S. sprinting. So looking at her, Candace Hill, Melissa Jefferson in heat 3. Candace Hill used to be a high school legend, obviously. She's been in the game for a long time now, and she's running well. So I'm curious to see how she performs, and then just Sha'Carri.
Yeah. Just Sha'Carri.
Heat 4, lane 7. Keep your eyes tuned to the TV, or if you're there on the track, she's going to be the story to watch.
Yeah, I have to agree. I think, as we mentioned, just with JC Sears, there's just a lot of questions. I don't know, and I think that was a lot of questions I had when we talk about a thing, Mo. JC Sears went down at the SEC Outdoor Championships, and she, like, that 10:77 was absolutely incredible, and she was, like, leading the SEC in that 100 meters, like, in that finals, and then all of a sudden just pulled up and held onto her hamstring. Before we even started filming, I was like, let me just check her Instagram. Let me just check social media to see maybe if she posted something to give us some type of indication of, are we going to see her toe the line? And it's one thing to declare, and it's another thing to declare and then not show up too. But I am just rooting for her if she is healthy and ready to go, because I think we can really bring a huge, strong, fast team to the Olympics if we have a healthy JC Sears. And again, everyone's going to be looking for Sha'Carri. Sha'Carri doing wonderful things, but I'm also looking forward to Mackenzie Long, as she just she penned her signature in with Adidas. So we're going to see her in a new kit, which I am looking forward to as well. So let's go ahead and talk about the quarter milers. This is going to be huge. Why is today so important with these prelims? I think just thinking about the prelims today, Semis are on Sunday, finals are Monday. So you have that day. What is today? Thursday? Friday. I'm like, what day is it? So, we're going to have that break tomorrow. I don't see a lot of, quarter milers really getting after it, showing all their cards. Again, you're just trying to do enough to qualify, but things are really going to shake up in those semis. So, Corey, what are you looking forward to?
I think today it's going to be very measured running from the 400-meter guys. The experienced ones will know how to affect it in their own way, whereas you have some of the young guys. Ahmad Robinson's a really good candidate at A&M. I think he's got a good shot. How will he attack the day?
Yeah.
Quincy Wilson, Heat 2, Lane 7, how will he attack the day? I think there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on him. We talked about Quincy and Justin for several days now. Kind of carbon copies of one another, separated by 7-8 years, right? So you see sort of what Justin was back in high school is what Quincy is now, and I think it's just sort of an interesting dichotomy, those two back-to-back lanes. I think that's the story I'm watching in Heat 2 there, but I think just about measuring yourself in the 400 a day, making sure you push through, because top 5 advance in each heat, that's 25 plus a couple more on seeds, so there's going to be a lot of people through to the semis.
Yeah. I agree. And when you just think about Quincy Wilson's heat as a whole, he's going to face Chris Bailey. He'll be on his inside. And we talked about Justin Robinson's going to be right on the outside of Quincy. So all in that second heat. Ashley, for you, and anybody in particular in the men's 400 that you're looking forward to?
Well, I think really it's interesting, and Corey kind of alluded to this, just like I think it's just seeing how all these guys from different levels match up against each other, right? Like as you mentioned, you have Quincy Wilson, the high school star, versus Justin Robinson, who's, been a star at Arizona State, but then you're also gonna have Chris Bailey and Ja'Cory Patterson, who have been pros for a little bit. So it's like, I think it's just a matter of seeing maybe how some of these younger guys then stack up in the rounds, I think, with some of these older, more experienced pros who have been through rounds like this before. So I think that's my biggest question. And again, I think the other thing too is sure, the top 5 advanced basically from each heat, but some of these heats are crazy. They're it's interesting draws for sure. I want to talk about the women's 400 for a second.
Heat 4 in particular.
Yes, Heat 4. Let's look at this. You got Jamesia Ford of South Carolina, Alexis Holmes, Rosie Euaugen, and Courtney Akolo all in the same heat. Goodness, these again, even though it is the first round, when you have that sort of talent, it is tough, and you got to be pushing each other, and especially, those are all some of the favorites to, some of the favorites that can make this team, I think.
It's very strategic how you approach.
5 through.
Yeah. But also in that mix, we're huge fans of Lauren Lewis, so I'm going to throw her in there. And also Kaylin Whitney, who we've seen pace a lot of the pro races too. And she's been one of those athletes that have been on the scene since high school that we've seen her. So again, that is adding those names into the mix. It's okay, we got to, I feel like it gets that heat might be a little bit strategic, but I'm looking forward to Heat 4 on the women's side.
Yeah, I think all those women you mentioned, I think that's 5 itself. If they perform, they're through. So, but I do think that there are women the Arkansas group, Rosie and Kaylin, are going to see a different race than they saw at NCAAs.
Agreed.
Right. Women are going to approach this differently than how they approach NCAAs. They entered that meet supremely confident to do the job and get the objective complete. Here, I think they're going to be challenged a little bit more and put on their toes. So I'm really interested to see how Rosie competes here, because this is one of the first time. I don't know. She wasn't at the trials in 2021, so how's she going to attack today?
Right. This is a whole new experience for a lot of different athletes. So the nerves are definitely going to be there. So if we can just keep them settled and just focus on what you need to do, everything will be great. Now, let's shift gears. Let's talk about the 2-lap race, specifically the women's 800 meters, because we have been talking about this event for weeks, months. And the fact that it's so deep, I feel like it's one of the deepest fields in the world. Now, when you look at the U.S. roster, we saw Athing Mu appeared yesterday at the USATF pre-meet press conference, ready to go. You're also going to have Nia Akins in the mix. We have a lot of collegians in the mix too that can potentially make this team, and it's just going to be full of heavy hitters. But Corey, what goes through your mind when you just think about this women's 800?
Well, there's 4 heats. There's 9 women in each heat. Top 6 in each heat get in. So the majority of women are getting through for the most part. So you don't have to worry I mean, you have to get the job done, but I feel like you can kind of try to work through it, even if you sort of make a tactical mistake here or there, within your group. I think you can still get out of it here. So I think just about performing today and getting the job done. I don't think necessarily too much about times today. It's just about pushing through.
Pushing through. Ashley, anything you want to
Yeah,
add?
I mean, it's just putting yourself in that position to get in that top 6 in the heat, right? You know, just making sure you're not doing anything dumb out there, you know? Like, maybe you can make a mistake or two and still get through. But I think really, again, like, going back to the storyline of a thing, Mo, like, I think there's a lot of, I guess, hype and intrigue in seeing her toe the track again for the first time in 2024. You know, she was recently on the cover of Sports Illustrated. You know, she was like the feature story in Sports Illustrated, you know, as we're talking about the Olympics. And I read that article and she really opened up about like just how she had to take time off and away from the sport to find that spark again that she had lost going into Budapest last year. But that she is now in like a whole new mindset. You know, like she's built in recovery breaks and training blocks to like let herself kind of like refocus and reset. You know, she enjoys it more. And I think like having that almost is like having almost like a more a thing Mo, not necessarily a new thing Mo, but someone with like a newer perspective, right? And like maybe a newer approach. Like I think I'm just really curious to see how that plays out on the track.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. I had a really great honor of sitting next to two amazing track sickos, as we like to call them, Brian Francis on the plane here. And one of the conversations we talked about was a thing, Mo. And he said, what really struck me was like a thing came out of like college. Like we knew who she was in high school, went to Texas A&M, went pro. She had to carry a lot. Like there was a lot of pressure being put on her as one of the fastest women in American history and also being able to medal as well. And so I'm happy that she has taken this time and is learning to just separate track, be a thing Mo, and then find that spark and that love again. Because once it's gone, it's hard to always sometimes bring that back and then to always continue forward. So a thing Mo is going to face Allie Wilson and Olivia Baker in heat number 2. The first heat, we're going to have athletes like Raven Rogers, Juliet Whitaker, Sammy Watson. Heat 3, I think, is going to be really spicy. You got Michaela Rose, Ajay Wilson, who has been on the scene for years. Sophia Gurriaran, Kendra Coleman, Addie Wiley, Charlene Lipsy's in that field, and then Heat 4, Roisin Willis, Nia Akins, Kate Grace, and Sage Hurtaklecker. And speaking of Nia Akins, we just dropped an amazing film with her about her journey going into the U.S. trials. So if you have not had a chance to check that out, please go to FloTrack or also go to our YouTube channel and you can see all of that. But
So Ajay Wilson actually is, I think, a question mark here because
I agree.
I mean, she's coming off the Edwin Mo's Legends meet. She did not run well there, 206, and she has been a go-to force in these kinds of situations. But I think women have ascended in the last couple of years, and I mean, my question for her is how is she going to respond in a situation like this? I think we could see the best of Ajay Wilson, but it's going to be one of the storylines to keep it attended to here in the 800.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. So again, great field of 800-meter runners. But before we end this podcast, we have one final that's going to kick off tonight. It's going to be an exciting race. It's going to be the men's 10K. How is this going to shake out? Will Grant Fisher dominate? Nico Young, is he going to be one of the top 3? Big question marks for this race. But Ashley, how do you see this kind of playing out?
I feel like when you're looking at this men's 10K, I think it's likely a battle for 3 spots between 4 people, right?
Yeah.
Grant Fisher, Nico Young, Woody Kincaid, and then I think Paul Chelimo needs to be in that conversation as well. I think you could arguably say Grant Fisher's the favorite, right? He's went 26:33 for a best coming into this, and the only other guys in this field that have the Olympic standard are Nico Young with his 26:52.72 from the 10, and then Woody Kincaid at 26:57.57. I'm putting Paul Chelimo in this discussion as well, right? Because he's such a veteran, right? I mean, he's made plenty of teams. He's been the bronze medalist in the 5K in Tokyo, and he won silver in that event in 2016 in Rio, and he knows how to race the trials, right? It's really going to come down to like tactics in how you race this race. You know, I think it's worth mentioning. I mean, the weather's kind of warm today. It's in the high 80s, so that could play a little bit of a factor into the tactics. I know we talked, I think, more about like in terms of like the 5K and the 10K, like likely they'll pack together for a little bit, but then eventually there's got to be a breakaway group that's going to go for those, those top 3 spots, and likely I see these 4 guys in it battling for those 3 spots.
Yeah. When I look at just on the USATF website to see like who's hit the standard, there's only been 3 individuals that have hit it. Like Paul Chalimo still has to go, underneath that barrier. We only have Grant Fisher, Nico Young, and Woody Kincaid who have hit those standards. And again, top 3 make it. So those top 3 get in. It's going to be spicy,
I agree with you on the men to watch here.
Yeah.
I want to add a couple more to watch out for.
Go ahead.
Connor Mance, coming off marathon. His last race was a marathon, so he's into the picture here in the 10K. And I would honestly keep your eyes on him. I mean, if it is tactical, which should be, I think you will have a couple of guys trying to put their stick their nose in a little bit. Drew Hunter, another one.
Yeah, I like that's a good pickup.
Yeah, he's running phenomenally over the last 6 months, and I think while he's a little bit outside probably where the qualifier will be, like the top 3 position will be, I think he'll put his nose in it. And then last but not least, Casey Klinger too of BYU. I think he's going to be a name to watch. But when we look at the top 3, don't forget about Woody Kincaid. He won in 2021. He beat Grant Fisher, right?
Yeah.
He won last year in the 10K. I mean, basically Woody is the guy to beat, the reigning champ. So Grant will have to beat him on this day today to claim that win. And I'm a little, I think Nico will qualify, but, I mean, he got beat at NCAA's tactically.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to be really, really on point here and make sure he's running the most precise race he's ever run before, because he should be at the Olympics.
Yeah.
This is his time.
This is the time. Again, that event is going to go off at 7:27 p.m. Pacific time. I'm like, what time zone are we in? Pacific time. So it's going to be full of a lot of great competition. Even though it's the first day, there's still rounds, but we all feel like it's going to be a great first day to kick off the USA Olympic Team Trials. So we want to thank again the Paddock, Ashley and Corey for always being knowledgeable, giving you all the great content. We're obviously here on the ground, so we will be in the mix zone. We're going to be in the stands, just observing all the great things. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you out there on the track.